May 21st, here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour, starting with the death of Iran's president. Iran has declared a 5-day mourning period for President Ibrahim Raisi, who was killed in a helicopter crash. The country's 14th presidential elections will be held on June 28th to elect new leadership. The International Criminal Court is seeking arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Hamas leaders in Gaza for war crimes. Israel has slammed the ICC decision. The leaders of South Korea and the UK are co-hosting the AI Seoul Summit for 2 days from today. World and business leaders are putting their heads together on ways to foster innovation, safety, and inclusivity in artificial intelligence. Iran began a 5 days of mourning on Monday following the death of the country's president in a helicopter crash the day before. Tehran also said there will be a presidential election late next month. Our Shin Se-byuk starts us off.
Iran declared a 5-day national mourning period on Monday following the death of President Ibrahim Raisi in a helicopter crash. Mourners filled the streets in major cities, including the capital Tehran, with memorial prayer gatherings held in various squares, creating a somber atmosphere.
Well, we are all sad about this news. He was a president of the people, and we lost a president who worked tirelessly for our nation.
President Ibrahim Raisi and 8 others, including his foreign minister, were aboard a helicopter that crashed on Sunday. The wreckage was found on Monday in a mountainous region of northwest Iran. Iranian state media and government officials have blamed severe weather conditions for the crash. Reports indicated that the search efforts were hindered by the rough conditions surrounding the crash site. President Raisi's funeral will be held on May 22nd in Tehran. Meanwhile, the Iranian government said a presidential election will be held on June 28th in accordance with constitutional provisions. The Iranian constitution mandates that in the event of a presidential vacancy, a direct election for a new president must be held within 50 days. Until the new president is elected, first Vice President Mohammad Mokhber will serve as acting president. In response to Raisi's death, the U.S. on Monday issued an official statement through the State Department expressing condolences for the death of President Ibrahim Raisi, his foreign minister, and others in the helicopter crash in northwest Iran. However, Washington also said hardliner Raisi had, quote, blood on his hands, pointing to Iran's support for terrorist groups as well as human rights abuses in the country, while making it clear that the U.S. had no involvement in the crash. Shin Se-byuk, Arirang News.
Now, what next for Iran after President Raisi's death? We turn to Professor Robert Lawrence this morning for what lies ahead for the mourning country. Welcome.
Morning. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us. Harsh weather conditions are reportedly what caused the tragic crash, but there are conspiracy theories saying there may have been more to the crash. Why is that?
Well, first of all, Iran's no stranger to high-level assassinations, right? We saw this with Qasem Soleimani a few years ago, and even a month ago with the Israeli attack on the Iranian embassy in Damascus. So, inevitably, some in the country will come to the conclusion that it was Mossad and or the CIA who did this. Further complicating that line of thinking is that the late president was coming from the Azerbaijani border, and Azerbaijan and Israel have close ties, and that Azerbaijan supplies about 40% of Israel's oil, and Azerbaijan is the second biggest consumer of Israeli military material. So this is going to there's a lot of fertile ground for conspiracy theories to grow. On top of this, domestically, the supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, his son is one of the 2 people who were believed to be in the race to succeed the supreme leader, the other one being the late president. Now that the late president is gone, some domestically might come to the conclusion that there was foul play there as well. In reality, we really don't know enough information about anything to declare there being foul play. We don't know if it's mechanical failure or the weather as reported. But the conspiratorial nature of some politics, politics in some countries, kind of breed fertile ground for this. So I think we'll see a lot more conspiracy theories come out in the next few weeks.
Right. Because the president has died in office, the question is who will take over the leadership now? And there will be an early election on June 28th. Professor Lawrence, let's talk about that.
Right. Well, according to Article 131 of the Iranian Constitution, the first vice president, now former first vice president Mohammad Mokbad, has to form a council with the head of the judiciary and the speaker of the legislative body. And it's their duty to conduct elections within 50 days. I believe it's been announced that there's going to be an election in late June, but that could be pushed back. They have 50 days to complete it.
Well, then, will a new leadership change the course of Iranian political and foreign policies compared to what, Raisi has done so far?
Well, domestically, there's a chance that they could pick somebody who's less inclined to be so heavy-handed in how they treat dissenters, right? That's been largely unpopular amongst the youth vote, especially the legislative elections this March had very low voter turnout, which was partially seen as a result of this heavy-handed way of dealing with protesters. So there's that possibility, but I think that's relatively unlikely given the makeup of the Guardian Council and the Assembly of Experts who kind of control the way that elections are held in Iran. Foreign policy-wise, I don't believe that there'll be much of a change from the status quo. Iran has had largely successful foreign policy under Raisi. They've improved ties with Russia and China. They've entered into a rapprochement with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and other Gulf countries, and they've been able to efficaciously utilize regional proxies and their axis of resistance to push their regional agenda while receiving very substantial repercussions back home. So I think you're looking at more of the status quo.
Would you say same status quo for the Israel-Hamas war as well?
I would. In fact, the real policy-making power comes through the supreme leader. And the IRGC, and both of those are still very well intact. The Israel-Hamas war, as far as from the viewpoint of Tehran, they've prevented what was an ongoing rapprochement between Turkey and Israel. They prevented any expansion of the Abraham Accords for the time being. Of course, this is just for the time being, but and they've also been able again to utilize and demonstrate the effectiveness of regional proxies. Additionally, I would say that they've had a PR victory in global politics, and that they've kind of championed the global South in this conflict. So I don't see what incentive they would have to change course right now. In the long term, should there be a more reform-minded successor to Ali Khamenei when the time comes, things might change. But in the short term, I don't see there being a big shift.
I see. Well, Washington expressed condolences while saying that Raisi had blood on his hands. Will the change of Iranian leadership be a headache for the U.S. ahead of its presidential election in November especially, or not as much? What do you think?
Well, the presidential election in November is going to be complicated for several reasons in the United States. And there's certainly the Israeli-Hamas conflict is going to be a big talking point, and U.S. policy in the Middle East in general, and that's intrinsically, geared towards our relationship with Iran and how we've dealt with Iran. It's going to be a big talking point, and I think Biden's going to come under a lot of criticism from Trump or whoever else might be on stage in any of those debates. However, from a Washington point of view, I don't think they're going to see much difference. Whoever's going to replace Raisi, given the makeup of the Guardian Council and the Assembly of Experts, is going to be a like-minded individual who's going to do the Supreme Leader's bidding, I believe. So I don't think there'll be much of a change. Thus, the difference between what that conversation would have been during the election if it were Raisi as president or whoever his successor is, I don't think really changes the equation in Washington, U.S. electoral politics.
All right, Professor Lauren, thank you so much for your insight this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me. You have a wonderful day.
You too. The International Criminal Court prosecutors are applying for arrest warrants for Israeli and Hamas leaders over allegations of war crimes related to the conflict in Gaza. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Hamas leader in Gaza, Yahya Sinwar, are among those named. Lee Seung-jae reports.
With thousands of civilians dead since the war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza, the International Criminal Court is now seeking arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Hamas's leader in Gaza, Yahya Sinwar. According to the ICC's chief prosecutor Karim Khan on Monday, the court is seeking warrants for both men on charges of war crimes and crimes against humanity over the October 7th attacks on Israel and the subsequent war in Gaza. Two other Hamas leaders are set to be subject to the warrant, while Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant's arrest warrant is also being sought by the prosecution. The Israeli Prime Minister slammed the court's decision to issue the arrest warrant against him, calling it absurd, adding that the move was meant to target all of Israel.
The absurd and deceitful warrant of the prosecutor in The Hague is aimed not only against Israel's Prime Minister and Defense Minister, it is aimed against the entire state of Israel. It is aimed against the IDF soldiers who are fighting with the utmost bravery against the vile murderers of Hamas, who attacked us with horrendous brutality on October 7th.
Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden also criticized the ICC's decision, calling it outrageous that it's seeking to arrest Netanyahu and other Israeli leaders. He stressed that there is no equivalence between Israel and Hamas. Pundits say that while it's unlikely that the Israeli and Hamas leaders will actually face prosecution, the arrest warrant could make it difficult for them to travel overseas, while a trial in the court would be especially embarrassing for the Israeli government. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Despite 3 months passing since the junior doctors began walking out of their workplaces in protest over the government's planned medical school admissions quota hike, those doctors now may face delays in getting medical fellowships. Despite the health minister's call for junior doctors to return to work by Monday, the vast majority of the 12,020 doctors continue their collective action. According to Health Minister Cho Kyu-hong, under the relevant law, junior doctors are only allowed to log up to 3 months of absences if they are to qualify for next year's specialty certification exam. Trainee doctors began their protest on February 19th. South Korea and the United Kingdom will co-host the AI Seoul Summit this week, beginning today. It's expected to set out a vision for governing the technology, expanding on the declaration made at the AI Safety Summit in England last year. Our Oh Soo-young tells us what to expect.
South Korea and Britain are working to reach a joint statement with world leaders on advancing innovation, safety and inclusivity in artificial intelligence in a virtual summit co-hosted by the two nations. In a briefing Monday, South Korea's top office said the AI Seoul Summit will kick off on Tuesday, with the leaders of G7 nations, Singapore and Australia invited to follow up on the first AI Safety Summit last November. While the Bletchley Park Summit focused on addressing threats to humanity posed by the fast-evolving technology, this whole session will expand the agenda to include innovation and inclusivity, with leaders expected to adopt an agreement on the way forward. Heads of international organizations, including the United Nations and the European Union, as well as global tech giants like Samsung, Naver, Google, Amazon and OpenAI, have also been invited.
Participants will hold a balanced discussion on not only the risks posed by AI, but also its positive aspects and how AI can contribute to humanity.
In a joint op-ed on Monday, President Yoon Suk-yeol and British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak emphasised the need for global standards to regulate and mitigate risks posed by AI, to transform lives for the better and stop the global race to the bottom. They said the AI Seoul Summit is expected to set out a vision for multilateral governance of the technology to tackle global challenges such as poverty and climate change. President Yoon, beginning with his New York initiative in 2022, has actively promoted global efforts to form norms on advancing digital innovation for the benefit of humanity, whilst expanding access and rights to gain from technology. On the second day of the summit, a ministerial session and the AI Global Forum will take place offline to expand the conversation.
The AI Global Forum aims to advance discussions with various stakeholders, including governments, firms, experts, and civil society, under the theme of governance for embracing AI safety innovation.
A presidential official told reporters China was not invited to join the leaders' meeting, in line with the first AI Safety Summit, but Beijing has agreed to participate in the ministerial session on Wednesday. Acknowledging the differences on governing technology, namely between liberal democracies and Beijing, the official said such issues are likely to be discussed throughout the summit. Yoon's office says by leading the comprehensive conversation on setting digital standards, South Korea hopes to expand its global reach as a technological leader and also become one of the world's top 3 powers in artificial intelligence. Oh Seong, Arirang News.
South Korea's Unification Minister held a press conference on Monday where he revealed some changes to the organization of the North Korean Workers' Party in what appears to be Pyongyang's effort to deny the idea of reunification. Our North Korean Affairs correspondent Kim Jung-sil has the details.
Unification Minister Kim Yong-ho revealed new findings on North Korea while reaffirming Seoul's policy against the regime in a press conference on Monday.
The North hasn't announced it yet, but its United Front Department has renamed the Workers' Party's Central Committee Bureau 10, and its functions have been centralized on psychological warfare.
North Korea's United Front Department served as the counterpart to South Korea's Ministry of Unification. A senior ministry official said the change means Pyongyang is now only focusing on espionage against the South and not efforts related to reunification. Other experts said it was notable that the North had decided to keep the department intact, although under a different name. When asked about former President Moon Jae-in's recent memoir in which he wrote he trusted Kim Jong-un's sincerity, that he has no intention of using nuclear weapons, the minister responded as follows.
What's most important is to read our counterparts' intention and capability. North Korea has the capability to threaten us through its nuclear and missile development. If we only focus on its intention while overlooking its ability, this could lead to a misjudgment of the state.
He said one of the toughest challenges remaining was Pyongyang's refusal to engage in dialogue.
The inter-Korean communication channel should resume regardless of the political and military situation, at least for humanitarian purposes and disaster response measures. It's urgent to restore such channels ahead of the monsoon season.
The minister plans to visit Sunnier Beach this Friday along with U.S. Special Envoy Julie Turner, where 16-year-old Kim Young-nam was abducted by the North in 1978 to raise awareness of the issue. Kim Jung-sil, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Kim Si-young, and now we turn to stories from around the world. Following the inauguration of Taiwan's new president, Lai Ching-te, Beijing's foreign ministry reacted on Monday, saying that Taiwan independence is a dead end and that succession is doomed to fail. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin said in a news conference following Lai's inauguration that Taiwan's independence will fail no matter under what guise or what banner. Chen Binhua, a spokesperson for Beijing's State Council Taiwan Affairs Office, said that Taiwan's Lai sent a dangerous signal of seeking Taiwan independence in his inauguration speech. Chen firmly added that China will never tolerate any Taiwan independence separatist acts in any form. The newly inaugurated president of Taiwan, 64-year-old Lai Ching-te, asked China in his inauguration speech to stop its military and political threats, saying that Beijing had to peacefully respect the choice of the Taiwanese people. Wikileaks founder Julian Assange has been granted permission to appeal his extradition to the United States. The UK High Court ruled in the whistleblower's favour on Monday, meaning Assange will now be able to appeal the US assurances over how his US trial would be conducted and whether his right to free speech would be infringed. In court, two judges said that they have granted full appeal to Assange on the basis that he might be discriminated against in the US legal proceedings, as the Australian-born Wikileaks founder is a foreign national. Assange has been resisting extradition from the UK for over a decade after his Wikileaks website leaked confidential US documents in 2010 and 2011 on the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, among others, for which the US charged him with acts of espionage. After the court case, his wife, Stella Assange, said that now is the right moment for US to drop the case. Italy's presidential estate in Rome marked World Bee Day 2024 on Monday, with a celebration following this year's theme, Be Engaged with Youth. The Director General of the UN's Food and Agricultural Organization spoke at the event, saying that young people should learn more about bees and pollinators, including modern technologies, while emphasizing the vital role of bees in agriculture, biodiversity and ecological balance. Educational panels on bees were also erected around the estate. Attendees included Italy's Agriculture Minister, the President of the International Federation of Beekeepers Associations, and a group of young students. The Japanese animation studio, Studio Ghibli, has been awarded an honorary Palme d'Or on Monday at the 77 Cannes Film Festival. Goro Miyazaki, the son of the famed founder of Studio Ghibli, Hayao Miyazaki, received the award on behalf of the studio, thanking the audience during a standing ovation following a screening of 4 new short films written and directed by his father. Hayao's son, Goro Miyazaki, is also a film director and the creative development director of the Ghibli Park. Studio Ghibli also won this year's Oscar for Best Animated Feature in March for the animated film The Boy and the Heron.
Good morning. Southern provinces got a taste of summer yesterday, but today the heat arrives for western regions, with temperatures rising to as much as 28 degrees here in the capital. Meanwhile, East Coast regions remain breezy with highs in the upper teens this afternoon. A bit foggy and some cloudy skies to start off the day in the capital area, but more sunshine will be rolling in as the day goes on. UV rays will be very high for most of West and Jeju Island today, so please use your sun protection items wisely to protect against overexposure to the strong sunlight. Back to the readings now. Afternoon highs in central regions will be 1 to 7 degrees higher this afternoon at 28 degrees here in Seoul and Daejeon this afternoon. Meanwhile, Busan and surrounding areas notice much cooler highs at 22 degrees over in Busan. A dry advisory is in place for the mountainous regions of Jeju Island. Now, early summer weather continues through the week, with nationwide rain in the forecast on Sunday, possibly into next Monday. With that in mind, let's take a look at the international weather conditions. We thank you for watching New Day at Arirang. We'll be back tomorrow for Wednesday's edition at the same time, 9 a.m. Korea time.
한국에 오면 먹어야죠. 먹어도 끝이 없는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니? 웰컴. 엄청난 에너지를 춤으로 뿜어내는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니? 하나, 둘, 셋.
Hey, Mr. Cupid, look my way. Make sure you listen to what I say. I may be stupid or quite naive.
끝없이 쏟아지는 포토스팟. 휴대폰 한 대로 감당할 수 있겠니?
Arrow straight through my heart.
The president also remains committed to boosting Korea's ties with its global partners on the sidelines of this latest.
To discuss the current security environment.
The United Nations no target on the ongoing insecurity, expressing stock markets around the world have taken a hit amid speculation that the U.S. Federal Reserve
Arirang.
웰컴. (24시간) 불이 꺼지지 않는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니? 웰컴. 엄청난 에너지를 춤으로 뿜어내는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니? 한국에 오면 먹어야죠. 먹어도 먹어도 끝이 없는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니?
We are here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation. Bringing news just for you. It's Tuesday, May 21st here in Seoul. I'm Song Yujin, and this is News Generation. Joining me in the studio today is Walter Lee.
Lovely to be here.
Happy Tuesday. And we actually have a new panelist joining us today. If you're a listener of Arirang Radio, you'll recognize her voice. Please welcome Yoon Seo.
Yay! Hello, thank you for having me today. I'm a news presenter at Arirang Radio. I've been working at Arirang Radio for 6 years, and I'm also a huge fan of News Generation, so it's my honor to be here today.
Well, it's a great privilege to have you. Now, today, both of our panelists are, of course, here to speak on behalf of those in their 20s and 30s. Now, as usual, we're going to start with our news feed, which covers different hashtags and news items that have been trending online over the past 24 hours. We start today in Taiwan, where Lai Ching-te was sworn in as the new president on Monday. In his inauguration speech, the former doctor and vice president called on China to stop its political and military intimidation against the self-governing island, which Beijing claims as its own territory. He also urged Beijing to share the global responsibility of maintaining peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait and to ensure the world is free from the fear of war. Delegations from countries with formal diplomatic ties to Taiwan, including the United Kingdom, United States, and Australia, attended Lai's inauguration ceremony. Now, his term marks the beginning of a historic third consecutive term for Taiwan's ruling Democratic Progressive Party. Now, moving on, in the tech world, Microsoft has unveiled its artificial intelligence PCs. At a keynote presentation on Monday local time, ahead of its annual Build Developer Conference, which opens on Tuesday in Seattle, the CEO introduced the company's Copilot Plus PC. It offers photographic memory of what users have done and searched on their computers and can translate audio from more than 40 languages into English. Now, this comes days after Google introduced its latest AI model, Gemini 1.5 Flash, and OpenAI announced its new ChatGPT 4.0 model. Now, finally, back here in Korea, a new diet trend among teens and young adults is raising concerns because we're seeing an increase in social media posts where young users praise extremely thin bodies that they call being bone skinny. These so-called pro-anorexia social media accounts, which are easily found, have been identified as spreading unhealthy diet habits. The owners of these accounts encourage each other to fast or drastically reduce their food intake and even ostracize those who fail to lose a certain amount of weight. Now, data from the National Health Insurance Service showed that eating disorders in Korea jumped 50% in 2022 compared to 2018. Among teenage girls, those struggling with anorexia increased almost 7-fold during this period. So when we see these posts, they encourage extreme thinness, claim that the goal is to achieve a number of 125 or higher when you subtract your weight from your height. So for example, if I am 162 centimeters tall, I should weigh no more than 37 kilograms, which is really, really low. So this is undeniably a very unhealthy and dangerous trend that we're seeing. So here in the studio, we also talked about this on News Gen in our previous episodes, but why do you think we're seeing such drastic diet trends among our generation these days? And just what do you think about this issue?
Well, teenagers tend to admire girl groups, boy bands, actors and actresses, and the media often features thin celebrities, and which seem to contribute to young students to develop unhealthy body images. Additionally, it's problematic that pro-anorexia photos, videos, and information are so easily accessible online. And in different countries, searching for these terms are prohibited, or it sometimes triggers warning messages. And just like tobacco packaging warning messages, here in Korea, we also need policies that actively inform the danger of anorexia and promote healthy eating and exercise habits to those who search for these terms, especially the teenagers.
Right. I think that that guidance is really important because these young teenagers, especially, they are at the point of learning what's wrong or right. So they definitely need guidance. They have to know that being bone skinny is definitely not good for your health. Now, what do you want to add on, Walter?
Yeah, I obviously think this is a very dangerous trend, and a very touchy subject as well, because these days body image has become a hot topic of debate, and that you should love somebody regardless of their body size. However, you know, everyone has talked about how we should praise plus size models and plus size people, but I would honestly put plus size and people with underweight, you know, situations in the same category, as they're both not good for your health. I think what we need to do is really promote healthier bodies. Now, that doesn't exactly mean, you know, what you see on TV or what you see models or people in the gym are, just a healthier lifestyle in general.
Right, a healthier lifestyle and finding that healthy way that maintains your health seems to be really important, and that was our news feed for this Tuesday. So we're now going to move on to our main discussion topic. Last Friday, we actually talked about how May is known as Family Month here in Korea. And today, actually, we're celebrating another family-related occasion, which is Married Couples Day. So for more, let's take a look at the screen.
Marriage is often described as a new chapter in life. When two people exchange their wedding vows, they promise to stick together through thick and thin, in sickness and in health. But like any relationship, marriage has its ups and downs. So what kinds of conflicts do millennials and Gen Zers typically face in marriage, and how can we resolve them?
Right, so as mentioned, today is Married Couples Day here in the country, which is a unique day to Korea. So Walter, for our viewers who do not know what Married Couples Day, please tell us why May 21st has been chosen and what we celebrate on this day.
And just another day in May where we celebrate so many different things, and this time it's Married Couples Day.
Right, a lot.
A lot of days to celebrate. Married Couples Day is celebrated on the 21st of May because it's when, let me quote my favorite Spice Girls song, when two become one. You were once two people living two separate lives, and now you've decided to ruin your life by becoming one happy couple, as I am indeed. But yes, that's the reason why 21st, 2-1, 2 becomes 1.
Right, and to add a bit of a background, this day was actually created by a Korean pastor who saw on TV about a boy saying that his wish was to live with his two parents, and that really shocked him because it was not like a typical wish that's wished by kids, such as I want this toy or I want to eat something. So he started this movement to create a day where we celebrate and emphasize the importance of couples and also making a happy family. And then the country actually started officially celebrating this day from 2007. Now back here in the studio, as we're talking about Married Couples Day, and I know, Walter, that you are married. You have a happy family. So do you also celebrate Married Couples Day with your wife?
I'm going to be honest with you, Eugene, I never heard of this day.
Really?
So until I had to research for this topic, and let's hope my beautiful wife isn't watching, so you don't have to, you know, spend a lot of money on the many other days that we've been spending money on. This is a very busy family month, as we said.
Right.
For me, it's our anniversary that's a special day for us to celebrate. I do understand that, you know, this is just another day for couples to celebrate, but I don't really want to celebrate a day where all the couples are celebrating the same day. It's kind of like Valentine's Day and White Day and then Couples Day, and then, yeah, there are too many days.
Right, and I think that not a lot of people, even who are married here in the country, know about Married Couples Day because it's fairly a new day because it started being celebrated here in the country in 2007. Now shifting our question to you, Taeyong, it's actually your first time on NewsGen today, and a big reason why you made your debut today is because you're also, just like Walter, you're married. You have a lovely family. So for our viewers, could you please tell us a bit more about yourself?
Sure. I've been married for 5 years, almost 6 years now, and I'm a mother of 2 adorable children. One is 4 years old, and the other just turned 9 months. And my husband and I, except for the occasional moments of tensions, are generally happy in our marriage, and we love each other deeply. But to be honest with you, we've never celebrated Couples Day. And when I think about why that is, the official recognition of Couples Day is pretty recent here in Korea.
2007.
So it hasn't taken a deep root in this society yet. And moreover, May is already packed with holidays.
Family days.
Mentioned, yes. And especially with kids, May is a month where you have to take the kids out to enjoy the beautiful weather almost every weekend. So we haven't had time to celebrate Couples Day, but celebrating a day dedicated to couples, the cornerstone of the family, is really meaningful, I believe. So from now on, I'll try to remember and celebrate Couples Day with my husband. I'll do my best.
Well, you don't have to, but I think it's just enough that we just like express our gratitude and love for our significant other on this day. I think that will be enough. And another reason why we chose this topic today is because millennials and the oldest Gen Zs are now at an age where we typically call as marrying age. And we've heard a lot about how our generation isn't getting married as much when compared to our previous generations. But for those who actually tie the knot, it seems that many are struggling with marital conflicts, right, Walter?
Yes, it's true. So unlike the older generation, the millennials and Gen Zers do not view divorce as so much of a stigma anymore. I mean, there is still a little bit attached. However, not compared to the older generation. They are the generation that does not tolerate and does not endure dissatisfaction within their lives. Now, according to a survey, 6 out of 10 couples in their 20s and 30s have experienced a period of negative changes in their relationship. So if we take a look at the screen, I can show you just some of the reasons why some couples are dissatisfied. Now, 31% have personality differences. Usually is the reason why most couples break up. 19% have conflicts between genders. 13% are just bored with long-term relationships.
Which we call kontegi here in Korea.
Exactly. And difference in family values comes in around 12%. And physically, just being tired is a 10% with a few other reasons. But yes, those are the main reasons.
Right. So more than half of these young couples are answered that they're actually face negative changes or conflicts in their relationship. Now, is there anything that you would like to add, Taeyong, to this discussion?
Where fairness is another key word among Gen Z couples. In the past, in Korea, it was customary for the men to buy the house and for the woman to fill the house with home appliances or furniture when they got married. Of course, this tradition also had its drawbacks, one of which was a reluctance to get married because it means that you have to be financially stable enough to either buy a house or buy all that furniture and home appliances. But as time has passed, the societal attitudes have changed significantly.
Rules have changed too?
Nowadays, many couples share the cost of preparing for the marriage, and the era when men worked and the wives managed the household is just long gone. And as a result, there's a new trend where husbands and wives, neither of them want to feel like they are at a disadvantage in any way. So this can also be seen as a downside because people might say we both earn money, so we have to split the household chores 50-50, and we have to share the childcare duties equally as well. And we should also, and then when they find something unfair, they can't just stand it. So trying to divide everything precisely in half can lead to constant arguments about fairness. And when couples meticulously organize household chores and childcare duties, even by using spreadsheets, it often leads to more
I heard. So I mean, in life, dividing everything 50-50 is almost impossible, which is a reason why, which could be a reason why we're seeing these conflicts arising. Now, back here in the studio, based on your experience, you've been married for several years. Can you also relate to why we're seeing these statistics and also the major factors on why couples of our generation are facing these marital conflicts?
I believe I'm pretty lucky at the moment. I mean, I've only been married for about 5, almost 6 years, and luckily I don't fall too much into any of the categories. I am physically tired, but that's just the way life is. But to be honest with you, me and my wife, we've talked about it, had a discussion why couples decide not to stay together for a long time. It seems to be becoming less and less. We both think we will be together until we die, but I understand that in reality sometimes relationships can get a little stale, and some couples aren't willing to work through those together. So like I said, only be married 5 years. I'm very early. I don't think I'll fall into any of these categories. I think my wife is an extremely lovely person if she's watching today. But yes, I'm willing to work through the lows, especially with my wife.
Right. It's definitely important to to have an attitude to solve these conflicts at the end. Now, what about you, Seol?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, I'm a mother of 2 young children, and I also work freelance. So I'm not complaining, but my 24 hours are filled with household chores, work, and childcare, and I don't have enough time to enjoy a meal or getting a good night's sleep or enjoying my me time by doing what I really like to do. It's a luxury I don't have, even on weekends or holidays. So my mental and physical fatigue build up, and more than 99% of the time, these frustrations are directed at my spouse. So ultimately, my kindness is directly proportional to my energy level. When I'm not tired, I'm very kind and sweet, but the more exhausted I am, the more irritable and scary I become to my husband, which is not healthy. So these days, I'm trying to find a healthy way to cope with my mental and physical exhaustion, and try to explain my honest feelings to my husband to deal with these problems.
Right. We'll talk about this later in a discussion, but it's really important to have an attitude to solve these problems, which can oftentimes be solved by having candid conversations. So we also asked our viewers about the main reasons for conflicts between married couples, whether it's from their own experience or what they observe in others. And here's what 3 of them had to say. So if we look at the comments, Tasmia says, lack of communication, empathy, and compromise are the main reasons for all conflicts in anyone's married life. If those didn't exist, we could have seen 92% of happy marriages. Leon says money is a major stress for many couples. Disagreements about spending habits, budgeting, debt, or financial goals can create tension. Also, unmet needs or unmet expectations can lead to conflict. Kazumal says the main reasons are due to a lack of understanding one another emotionally and intelligently, being a good listener and replying correctly with ideas or perceptions. Genuine communicative feedback is the key. So now that we've taken a look at why young couples in our generation are facing conflicts, and to add more experts' perspective and how we can solve this wisely, we're going to bring in an expert to join our discussion. We'll be right back, so stay tuned. We're back. So today we're joined by Kim Jisoo, who's working as a lawyer in Korea. Welcome, Jisoo, to the show.
Hi.
Hi, it's lovely to meet you. So for our first question for you, we want to ask you, is the divorce rate higher among millennials and Gen Zs compared to other generations? And do they seem to experience more marriage conflicts when compared to the past generations?
So actually, both the number of divorces and the overall divorce rate have been declined in South Korea pretty much recently. Statistics show that millennials and Gen Zs are divorcing less compared to other generations. So this might seem surprising given the numerous divorces we see among young people, right? When we break down the data by timeline, it's starting to make sense. For instance, according to statistics by Korea Department, the divorce rate for couples in their 20s and 30s has increased over the years. So in 2020, the divorce rate among those couples in their 30s was 5.3 per thousand couples compared to 4.5 per thousand in 2010. So in other words, people in their 30s today are more likely to get divorced than those who were 30 years old in the 1980s and 1990s. And despite the lower overall divorce rate, this age group is definitely experiencing higher rates of divorce compared to previous generations. And I wouldn't say they are experiencing more marriage conflicts than previous generations. Rather, there's no reason for them to tolerate issues that arise. Marriage conflict have always existed, but today's younger generations are less willing to endure unresolved problems, which apparently leads to a higher divorce rate among those currently in their 30s.
It's quite interesting. So have you noticed any differences in marriage conflicts between millennial and Gen Z couples compared to, let's say, other generations?
So one of the most significant change is definitely in gender roles and expectations. Millennials and Gen Z couples often strive for an equivalent division of households and parenting duties, which contrasts with previous generations where traditional gender roles were much more prevalent. For instance, younger couples expect both partners to share tasks like cooking, cleaning, and childcare more equally, which can lead to conflicts if these expectations aren't met. And again, these kind of marriage conflicts have always been prevalent in different shapes and different tasks. Over the course of years, however, MZs are less tolerable and there's no need for them to tolerate those issues.
Right. Here's our last question. It's common for couples seeking a divorce take a cooling off period. Do some couples end up reconciling after taking time apart? And what factors contribute to this decision?
So first, you need to go through a mandatory cooling off period in order to get divorced in South Korea. You'll be given 4 weeks of cooling off before you finally decide to wrap up your marriage. This is also known for reconciliating period, and if you have kids, it gets longer. Unfortunately, it is less common for couples to reconcile after taking this cooling off period. Statistics from Korea Family Court indicates that while the cooling off period is designed to give couples time to reconsider their decision, reconciliation rates are relatively very low. Only about 10 to 15% of couples who undergo a cooling off session end up getting divorced. So the primary reason for this is that many couples in South Korea view this cooling off period as just a formality rather than a genuine opportunity to get back together. So this might be the main factors contributing to this decision.
All right, Jisoo, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we now found the root causes why our generation is having conflicts in their marriage life. And conflicts are inevitable, especially when two people who live differently for decades become a family. So if you can avoid these conflicts, it's really important to resolve them, because at the end of the day, they got married to become happier and to live a happy life. So briefly, you guys are both married once again. What do you think, what advice or tips can you give for a happy marriage life?
Well, I can't say like what is a happy marriage life. I just say a successful marriage life. For me, it's just being compromising with my wife, loving with my wife, and also making sure she's happy, which is a lot of compromising on her end. But yes, I always make sure that, you know, that we're both happy and we both understand each other.
Right, and I think the way to achieve that is through having a lot of conversations, right?
Yes, correct.
Right. And now what about you, Seo?
Well, every couple has different ways to prevent or resolve conflicts. And one method is using polite language or speaking honorific form, 존댓말 in Korean, to show respect. And I also believe the couples have to remember two key words, respect and love. So everyone wants to be respected and loved, especially by the one who's closest to you, the one you love the most.
Right. So communication, respect, and love. We want to say happy married couples Day to all our viewers who are married. And in the meantime, we'll be here every day from 9:30 to 10 a.m. Korea time, bringing you more topics young people are talking about. Special thanks today to Walter Lee.
Lovely to be here.
And Yoon Seo.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. We are News Generation.
Welcome. (24시간) 불이 꺼지지 않는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니?